Hi, I'm Elamin Mahmood, and this is Commotion. Look, like many of you, I woke up this morning with the news that the great Quincy Jones has died at 91. Quincy was many things. He was a gifted band leader, an extraordinary musician and composer. And also, here's like a really big understatement. He was a brilliant music producer. I think I say that because it's honestly not right and not sufficient to describe Quincy as a music producer. He's like on anyone's short list of the greatest producers of all time. He produced Aretha, Ray Charles, Frank Sinatra, Ella Fitzgerald. With Michael Jackson alone, he produced Off the Wall and Thriller and Bad. And he also produced the track that you're hearing right now. From 1980, George Benson with Gimme the Night. Look, there's not a lot of people who sit at the center of many of the greatest albums of all time. Quincy is that guy. He produced movie soundtracks, he produced television. Actually, he was the executive producer of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. He's in the opening credits. He plays a taxi driver who drops Will Smith off at the new big house. And can I just tell you this? Quincy is also one of the most entertaining, famous people ever. You should go read David Marchese's profile of Quincy in New York Magazine. He is like as unvarnished as they come. There's like a period in it where he just goes, the Beatles, I met them when they were young. They couldn't play any music. He just says stuff like that. We're gonna go deeper into Quincy's legacy this week on Commotion. I hope you come back for that. Just give me the night. All right, look, over the weekend, Kamala Harris popped up on SNL, but will that really do anything for her? And also, there's this brand new movie from Tom Hanks. It's called Here. I was kind of hoping it would be a big movie theater moment. Maybe I'm hoping for too much. The group chat is here. My pals, Teri Hart, Amil Niazi, and Auntie Donahue. Well, welcome, y'all. How's it going?
Good.
Hello. Look, I'm going to spare all of you my Kamala Harris impression. You're welcome. But what I'm going to start with is, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. But I'm going to start with is this clip that I've been seeing everywhere. And honestly, without meaning to, I think I might have it memorized by now.
Gosh, I wish I could talk to someone who's been in my shoes, you know? A black South Asian woman running for president, preferably from the Bay Area.
Both, sister.
It is nice to see you, Kamala.
It is nice to see you, Kamala. And I'm just here to remind you, you got this. Because you can do something your opponent cannot do. You can open doors.
That is a bit of the opening sketch from this week's Saturday Night Live. For this season, SNL has typically opened with Maya Rudolph playing Kamala Harris. But then you get to this one, the last episode before the election, and then Maya gets a surprise visit from the real Kamala herself. Teri, I'm going to start with you. What do you make of Kamala's appearance on SNL?
She was great. It was really nice after seeing her on the campaign trail to seemingly be having fun. And they had this routine as the skit went on, ending everything with Amala. Yeah. And it was quite funny, you know, put your hand in my Pamela, keep calm and carry on, Allah. Yeah. And, you know, all of that really worked for me. But mostly I think that you saw in Maya and Kamala Harris a real respect and a real care for each other. And it was like surprisingly emotional for me after, you know, the campaign trail and seeing her just work so hard and how tired she must be to then see her having that kind of fun.
Yeah, you get to this moment, Amil, and I feel like there's been two different ways of talking about Kamala. There's been the Kamala that's been on the campaign trail, and then there's been like this Kamala construct on the internet. You know, the idea that Kamala is brat, the idea that Kamala is the figure who's like the subject of all these memes. And actually, like to her credit, I think she has not really directly engaged with that herself. I think she's kind of like let the internet do most of that talking. But then on the campaign trail, she's kind of been trying to hammer home the point that like she's basically like a normal, capable politician. Maybe not the funniest, but also that's not the thing that you need politicians for. How do you think Kamala fared in the context of like showing up on SNL?
Oh, I think she did really well. I think this is kind of where she thrives, is her ability to sort of laugh at herself, to have fun. She's very charismatic. As far as political appearances on SNL go, I think she handled herself very well. She sort of nailed it. She laughed when it was fun to laugh, but like Teri mentioned, she had a real sort of natural chemistry with Maya Rudolph, which really showed itself in this. If it were happening further back in the campaign, if she'd had as much of a runway as a normal politician would have, given, kind of what's happened with her run here, I think it would have played differently. I feel like this far into it at this juncture, with the kind of mood of the moment, if I can say that.
Please do. Yes.
Underplaying it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I couldn't enjoy it as much as I would have otherwise, because it felt like, gosh, is this too little too late for her campaign? And it didn't necessarily speak beyond the audience that's already excited for her, that's already engaged with her. Do you know what I mean? I remember seeing on X tweets that her plane was rerouting, and it was leaving her planned campaign stop earlier because it was going to New York, and the rumblings of her going to SNL started. And I thought, I understand why, because it plays to those strengths that we talked about. But it's funny, given that it's not going to reach anyone in those swing states, anyone that's still undecided, anyone that's on the fence. It felt like her comfort zone. It felt like playing it safe a little bit. And so I wish I could have enjoyed it more, but I think she did actually quite well.
I like Amil's like, get to Pennsylvania, Kamala. What are you doing?
What are you doing
on the stage at SNL? This is not the place you need to be. I mean, there is something to that, but also there's something, I think, like to her appearances and on maybe, let's say, non-political media. She's been very selective about the moments that she's picked when it comes to those. The Oprah interview comes to mind, which is like when she kind of let it slip. She was like, I own a gun. And it kind of became like this big kind of laugh moment. I'm also thinking of like the Drew Barrymore moment. And so to me, like, there's actually not that many to choose from. And then you kind of get to this one. How did this cameo land for you, Anne?
Honestly, the parallels between Kamala's campaign and Veep right now are wild. And this is actually also a segment in Veep where Selena's has to appeal to everybody watching, like general America. And obviously she's less successful than Kamala in like her charm and seemingly to enjoy this moment. But I feel like Amil's pretty much laid it out for me, where it's lovely to have these moments. It's great to humanize politicians when you need to frame them that way. But so much is in the background of this election that the topical appearances and these like memeable moments, as much as I would like to say they will make a difference, I genuinely think that we have so much background noise that's completely going to overshadow and is overshadowing that. And also I think that SNL kind of lost a little bit of their je ne sais quoi with politicians when Trump hosted. Yeah. I think there's still a lot of feelings about that. And it's hard to come back from that. She did a great job. She did a really good job, but there's so much context in which we came from. She didn't just fall out of a coconut tree and appear on SNL. Like there's so much, it's a great little moment, but it's like trying to speak at a Bruce Springsteen concert and no one can hear you because there's so much more going on. I went to Bruce Springsteen last night. I had to say that. I had to drop it on this.
I love that little plug for Anne's concert.
I had fun.
There was no way that the Bruce Springsteen concert doesn't work itself into this conversation somewhere.
It had to.
But I also appreciate that both Anne and Amil's position is like, hey, this is nice. How quickly can you get to Iowa? Can we just get this moving? Thank you so much. And you know what? To her credit, it was not a very long segment. She didn't overstay her welcome. That's what I kind of liked about it. It's a brief little moment, and then it kind of ended. All right, we're gonna move on because we have a lot to talk about. I want to get to a new movie that I'm delighted to find out there's a new movie from one of the most decorated filmmakers of all time.
Hey, Dad. I'd like you to meet Margaret.
Nice to meet you, Margaret.
Nice to meet you, Mr. Young.
Time sure does fly, doesn't it?
sure does.
That is a bit from the new movie Here. It is just called Here. It is from the director, Robert Zemeckis. Look, he gave us Back to the Future. He gave us Contact. He gave us Forrest Gump. And now he's given us Here, a movie that brings back the stars of Forrest Gump. You get Tom Hanks and Robin Wright together, the writer of Forrest Gump, also Eric Roth. But this movie has a very specific quirk, maybe a quirk that can get tiresome for some people. Teri, do you want to explain it to us very briefly? What is happening in Here? What makes it so unusual?
Sure. I mean, you mentioned some of Robert Zemeckis' other movies, and he is known for using and playing with technology in his movies. I also want to mention Polar Express, because I think that that is also worth mentioning in his list of credits. So for Here, what he's doing is using an AI-assisted aging and de-aging process for both Tom Hanks and Robin Wright. And it happened in real time on set while they were in production. So they could actually see this process, this transformation happening while they were acting. So supposedly that's supposed to help with their body movements and understanding how one moves differently, getting on and off a couch, being 17 versus being 75. And so Tom and Robin play the central couple that we follow through the decades of the life and living in this house. That's kind of the really high-tech stuff. And then there's a real low-tech thing that Zemeckis does in this, which is to tell this story of the house and the people who have lived in the house over a century. And also what happened on the land that the house is on.
And how does he do it, Teri? Tell the people. How does he
doesn't move the camera. He keeps the camera in one
spot. One shot.
One spot, one shot. And so what moves our attention are these kind of like window panes that pop up that make our eyes go, but there are no hard cuts. It is one shot, the camera doesn't move. It's a unique movie experience, I would say.
And I've never heard a critic use the word unique positively, because usually there's so many other words to reach for that when unique has to be popped up, it's kind of like, this is the best thing I can maybe say about it. Is that what I'm hearing in your voice?
This is an experiment for sure. Yeah. And for me, it didn't completely work. Yeah. For a lot of reasons, not just those technical reasons, but I think that Zemeckis can be guilty of focusing more on the tech than he is focusing on the story, and I think that's ultimately what we see in Here.
Can I just say, you're not the only one for whom this did not work. Like Amil, in the 80s and 90s, Zemeckis is synonymous with blockbusters, right? Like, but then you've got like in the last maybe 10 years or so, a pretty spotty track record. And then you kind of judging by the lukewarm critical and box office reception to this movie to Here. It doesn't seem like this is the movie that's going to be the movie to change that. I think you had all the ingredients for like a big cinema moment, and then it doesn't work. Why do you think it didn't work?
Well, I mean, Teri mentioned the technical, the gimmicks. Then they do overshadow what is ultimately a very simple story, right? It's about the circularity of life, about how love and loss work in conjunction, about how life moves forward regardless of whether or not you're paying attention. And to really make a movie that's about something so simple, I think, work and have impact is to pay attention to the dramatic points between the characters, between the chemistry amongst the actors. And a lot of that gets lost when you're looking at the de-aging, when you're focusing on what's happening behind the window, when you're so caught up in the trappings of your gimmick. And I think that all of that loses the heart and soul that would really make a movie like this sing. And I'm very swayed these days about stories like that. I'm really interested in mortality and about what it means to be here and what life is all about. And so I was primed to like this movie, and it did fall short for those reasons for me. Just the trappings of the tech really distracted me the whole time.
I say two things. One, just judging by your tweets, Amil, I feel like you are in your mortality bag. Like every time I see a tweet, I'm like, oh, Amil's working through some big questions, and I love that. But also, and can I just say, this is going to sound indefensible, but go with me for a moment. I think
so
there's
scared.
I think there's a case to be made for gimmicks. I think there's a case to be made that because like sometimes gimmicks actually move the movies forward. And I'm thinking here of like Avatar, for example. Like James Cameron did not reinvent the wheel with the story that he told in Avatar, but he did spend a lot of time on the technology of it. And because of the success of Avatar, you kind of go like, oh, like there's many more things that we can do with filmmaking that we weren't able to do before that. And so I think like when I hear a gimmick, I'm instantly resistant the same way that both Amil and Teri are, but I'm also kind of like excited about the possibilities. And I don't know if you are in that camp at all. So when you watch the de-aging happen in real life, you know, in real time in this movie, when you see Tom Hanks and Robin Wright as 20-year-olds in this movie, what goes through your mind? Do you go, you know what, this gimmick, thank you for this. This is the potential is great. Or do you go, miss me with this. I don't want any part of it whatsoever.
Oh, I say, I hate this. I hate it so much.
Thank you for singing.
You're welcome. It had to be done.
Yeah.
I think just because we can do a thing doesn't mean we must do a thing. And we can do a lot of things. It doesn't mean we have to go do those things. I think with this gimmick in particular, why are we de-aging? Like, do we not have young actors anymore? Like, have they not done enough? Like, have we not? Tom Hanks, we know you can act. Congratulations. Wonderful. We love this for you. Why are we not casting Colin Hanks as his younger son? What about younger act? Like, it just seems honestly super selfish. You've had your time. Let's move it along. Age into your like Clint Eastwood era, but a better person than Clint Eastwood. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't need this. We need other things. Anything would be better.
Wow.
And bless us, everyone.
I like that you really held back on your opinion on de-aging technology there. Just a production note, I would cast Chet Hanks because I don't think he gets enough screen time. Ooh. Okay, we are going to keep it moving. My name is Elamin Abdul-Mahmoud. This show is called Commotion. Auntie Donahue's here, Teri Hart is here, and Amil Niazi's here. And we're talking about a whole bunch of things that are happening on our screen this week. Okay, look, normal folks just took down their Halloween decorations and they're just figuring out, oh, when should I put up my Christmas decorations? But I think the real ones know that Christmas season actually began 2 weeks ago because that is when Hallmark started putting out this year's crop of the made-for-TV Christmas movies. 32 of them, count them. This week, they're upping the ante with this.
One of the greatest parts of any holiday movie is the meet cute. The two leads interact in an unexpected way for the first time, and the romantic adventure begins. But this isn't a traditional meet cute. For you guys, we're throwing in a twist. Instead of a one-on-one scene, two of you will be competing for the leading lady's affection at the same time.
That is a clip from Finding Mr. Christmas. It is a new reality TV show from Hallmark. It premieres this week on the W Network in Canada. And I think you can just think of it as a Bachelorette, except for instead of beautiful men competing for a woman's affection, it is a group of beautiful men competing to be the starring actor in an upcoming Hallmark Christmas movie. Amil, look, you're a Hallmark Christmas cinematic universe through and through person. And then you get this reality show as a concept. Do you love it or list it? What do you do?
Oh, I love it. I love it. You know what? I've often wondered, as also a reality TV devotee, if we've run out of fun, interesting reality TV show concepts. And clearly we have not, because this one I think was perfect. If you know anything about Hallmark movies, then you know that the leading man, he could be anybody. He literally could be anybody, as this reality TV show proves. Totally disposable, just like a beautiful hunk of man meat. I can't believe I just said that. Apologies.
On the radio. Live radio, folks. Anything can happen. Yep.
And so this just like boils that down to its absolute core and lets us have fun with it. And I think sort of like is an attempt by Hallmark to sort of breathe some new life into their Christmas fair, which somehow has, it's like they created the beast and now the beast is bigger than they can handle because everyone wants in on the Christmas movie game, which we can talk about a bit later. But I think this is a really clever, fun, funny way to re-engage people into the Hallmark Christmas season. And I'm all for it. I love it.
It's also an interesting turn of page, Teri, because Hallmark is in the news a bunch because one of their former casting directors filed this wrongful dismissal lawsuit against them. She says that an executive told her staff to stop casting older actors in leading roles, including some regulars and heavyweights who people, if you keep watching Hallmark, then you would know these characters, including Lacey Chabert, who's 42, Holly Robinson Peete, who's 60. Look, Hallmark is not MTV. It's not necessarily courting a younger audience. Are you surprised to hear this accusation of ageism pop up?
I mean, listen, I am never surprised to hear about ageism. As a 53-year-old woman, it really does exist. But what does kind of surprise me is this is out of the core, I think, of people who are watching these movies, who tend to be a little bit of an older audience. And I also think that seniors are having more of a moment, like with the Golden Bachelor and the Golden Bachelorette.
And Hacks, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, yes.
And Hacks, yeah. Jean Smart, like, get it, Jean Smart. We're seeing seniors in things other than pharmaceutical ads, which I think is good for the world.
Huge.
And so I'm hoping that we can see, like, in the future, you know, two widows who maybe, you know, meet at their niece and nephew's nuptials. Maybe their Christmas nuptials I offer up. That
Teri, are you developing a movie right now? Is that what's happening? I'm telling you,
it writes itself. It writes itself. Take note.
And when you see these stories that have to do with the Hallmark Christmas cinematic universe, like, let's go back to the reality show for a moment. Do you hear that and go, yeah, I'm on board with this. Thank you, Hallmark, for engaging me in a different way with all your Christmas movies.
Right. I'm not like part of the Hallmark cinematic universe that much. Like I did have an interaction the other day where I tweeted something about a house being infested with bats. And I was like, oh, I'll write that Hallmark movie. And then Hallmark tweeted that back and was like, you should. And I was like, hey, that's pretty much where it ends for me. But the funny thing is watching the ad for this has made me feel invested in the Hallmark cinematic universe. I do love me a reality TV series. Okay. And I love the idea that we have this concept of this Hallmark actor of like, could be anyone, blah, blah, blah. So I think it's easy to be like, I could do that. I want to watch a bunch of guys try to do that, try to be charming without seeming creepy, trying to be funny without seeming like a best man at a wedding who's had like 3 whiskeys in the last half hour. Like I want to see this happen, and it's actually drawn me in where I know that I will watch the end game. I will watch the film that comes out. Like if this is how they hook you, Hallmark, let me write the Bat movie.
Amil, can I just ask you this? I think like between the reality show and also the accusations of ageism, I think they both sort of introduce the fundamental question of like, what is the thing that we get out of Hallmark movies? Are you watching the Hallmark movies for the people in them or for the stories? Like what is our relationship to this universe? What are you thinking about here?
Well, I think on the one hand, yes, it's very comforting. You know, it does sort of draw on this idea of, you know, when I felt, not me specifically, I didn't celebrate Christmas as a child, but it you know, calls to mind Christmases of people's youth. You know, it really conjures up these lovely emotions. You know, you can almost smell the movie, right? The orange with the cinnamon cloves, and you just get this warm, comforting feeling. And whether or not you had that type of holiday or not, you can sort of relive it and you can experience it for yourself amongst these films. And especially right now when the world feels very crazy and chaotic and scary, this is a place to retreat into. So I think that's true. But I also think, sure, the stories don't really matter that much. We all make fun of them and they're often basically the same. Insert Christmas tree farmer, you know, grandma's cookie shop owner. It doesn't matter. Yeah. But the people in them, and this is why I think that ageism story sort of got people so upset. The fact is that Holly Robinson Peete, Lacey Chabert, you know, whoever is starring in these films, they do tend to be older. It does tend to give you the sense that you don't have to fall off a cliff and disappear the minute you turn 30 or 40. And I think that for a lot of women watching these films, that is the, you know, biggest part of their demographic. Yeah. They do tend to be older. I think it is comforting also to see themselves in these movies. And that's why I think it was so upsetting to hear that Lacey Chabert at 42 is too old to be in a movie and too old to be a love interest. Holly Robinson Peete at 60, like, are you not deserving of love once you reach a certain age? These movies show you that you can and that you are in it, and it's a little more serious, you know?
I know. I got to leave it there. And also, I got to note that Hallmark has denied those allegations. And they say their statement says that they represent, quote, a broad spectrum of diversity, including actors who span many age groups and cross generations. That's a statement from Hallmark. Also, Amil and Ann and Teri, I appreciate you guys being here. This is Commotion. We got to say bye. Have a great day. Thank you.
Bye.